Happy Sunday. I know I'm usually saying happy Saturday, but y'all know it's a busy summer. I've been telling you guys about that. But still trying to get these weekly videos out for you guys. We have opened up our new quarter, our new month, our new week has basically started, and we are in full swing of summer months. I do want y'all to know that a lot of people are saying July is seasonally the best month for the S&P 500. So we will see. We do know we have earnings also around the corner, starting with the banks, I believe next Friday, and then that next week is full swing. You got Netflix coming up, all of that. You know, Netflix usually sets it off. So earnings is coming. This week, as far as economic data, I do want to point out that we have a lot of the feds are outside. So we got a lot of Fed speakers on Monday. Tuesday, there is just more Fed speeches, but Wednesday is CPI. Then also Thursday is PPI. Friday, we have Michigan consumer sentiment. So we do have a lot of data coming out this week. So we are going to, wrong one. We are going to be aware of that as usual and move on from there. So last week we looked at everything on the quarter and the month and the week to kind of see what things were doing. We did not look at the things on the daily like we normally do to kind of gauge how they are on their 200. Mostly because a lot of the things are just well above them anyway. So that's another good reason why. But now that we've opened up and we kind of got a general idea of how we've started off so far, we can go back and look at these dailies. So look at the VIX. Now, one thing we have been talking about is that the VIX has been in this downtrend, but it still had more to go if it wanted to. One thing I do want to point out is if you look at VIX, the VIX on the daily, and you see this little downtrend that it was in, almost like a flag, it broke out of there, but then came right back in. So the VIX is in a very, very interesting place for me. We know that it broke out of this small bear flag, but on the larger picture, we are still in this downtrend. The last two times it came up to at least here before it actually rejected. So it may come on up to this 1743 before it actually rejects. And if we do that, we may see some red in the market. And when we get to all these shooters, that would be a great case for this to actually do that. Now, the VIX does have a shooter on the week, so this definitely could go the other way, and we could go with seasonality, which, again, like we said, seasonality for July is usually bullish. So if this does a 2 up, 2 down on the week, then we know that we will continue to see green in the markets. But the VIX is well below its 200, hasn't tested it actually since March, honestly. So it would really need to break this resistance and hold above it for us to really be thinking that it may start moving to the upside. And also remember, it's still making lower highs. So if it does break past this 17 and hold, then it will have made a higher high out of this downtrend. So we do want to keep an eye on that. But if we keep up with the downtrend, we should continue to see bullish activity in the market. So DXY did an outside week, but we are still basically stuck in this range right here. We do still have some room to go down, but it's just been doing this. But if you notice, it's kind of getting a little tighter. If you wanted to draw some lines, kind of how it's looking, like that. So it's kind of coming in here, and then maybe it's going to finally explode in one way or the other. But that's kind of how DXY is looking so far. It is still also in its downtrend. You can see that here. We're still making lower highs, and we've rejected the 200 yet again. This time it rejected it kind of hard. So that is the dollar. Looking at the NASDAQ on the week. So NASDAQ barely took out last week's high and came back in. So now we don't have a shooter here, but we do have a possible 3, 2 up, 2 down reversal action. So it may come on down to this 14,700. But if you look at it, like most things, like I was saying, we didn't look at the 200. Oops, let me take this off, y'all. Sorry. We didn't look at the 200 last week because we were starting a new quarter. But looking at it, you see we are very far above it. EMAs is still pointing up. And although we have a shooter on the day, which could support our weekly drop. So we got the 2 up, 2 down. That could trigger the 3, 2, 2 down on the week. So that is a possible play for next week with your favorite NASDAQ stock, especially with this shoot on the day. One thing you'll notice here is that we gapped up, gapped down. When we gapped down, we came and filled this gap. And then we came up and filled this gap. So now both of these gaps are filled, but we may still iron out this area. So we may do a 2 up, 2 down. This is possibly a strong support, and then if it continues break, we'll have that 3, 2, 2 down on the week. Looking at the Dow again, range, wash below a little bit, range. That's just what it's been doing. You know, it's really since for 2 years. Range, wash above, range, wash below, range, really moved down, came back up now, even for the last 8 months, range, wash below, range, wash below, range. So are we going to wash below again? Because still, since October, we have made higher lows. So really interesting, but we do have a red inside week here. So yeah, interesting to see what we do. Will we continue that bearish activity or what? We didn't look at the Dow on the daily. We have a shooter. Like most things, a lot of things have shooters on the day. It's really interesting because on Friday we had that gap down, but then Thursday. Yeah, Thursday we had that gap down. But a lot of things ended as hammers, and then they came up just like we just saw with the NASDAQ, filled that gap, and then came back in and ended as shooters. So I think Grab calls it shooter counters hammer. We have a shooter here, so definitely looking for more downside, and that could trigger the 3, 1, 2 down. So IWM is at a strong resistance point. As you can see, it really hasn't been able to get above 188, but then it's been finding support here about 180. So that's kind of the range that it's in, and it may honestly do this again in this area and just iron that out and move or decide its next move from there. But you see we are still in the middle of this monthly broadening formation, so it could definitely go either way. Looking at it on its 200, that 180 support is really right around that 200. The 200 is sitting where that gap was. And remember, if you've been following me for a while, we were looking for that gap fill for the longest. We finally got it, and now it's kind of made it support. So interesting to see what it does here. We know that 181-ish is a really strong support for it, and that 188 is a resistance. So the Qs are going to look exactly like NASDAQ, where we got that 3, 2 up. That's red. So possible 3, 2, 2 reversal. And then you have on your daily, you have your shooter that could trigger that. So your 2 down reversal will be at that 364.53. So that 2 up, 2 down, that's going to be your support. If it falls through there, then, you know, we may see some more downside. Q's almost kind of double topped here. You got a M. possible. But if you look at the trend, it hasn't tested the 20 since May. Well, it almost did here. We'll count this. It tested it here. So we're looking to at least see it test there. But notice that this is curving. It did curve there, and then they found support. They bought it up right there. So I'm looking to really see if they buy it up there, because if we do that 322 down, our target is 357.86. But really looking to see if they hold this 362 first. And if they don't, then I think it can definitely see that 357. And then, ooh, we'll have to see if it holds that. Because if you see this 357, that was a resistance before. So if that's going to be a support, we'll have to see if it bounces from there and continues. But right now, one thing I do also want to point out, we uncoupled on Tuesday. So we will have our full time frame continuity. I think that waiting till Tuesday or Wednesday will be really good to see what kind of direction we have, whether our time frame continuity can flip quickly or not. So make sure you go through and mark your opening levels to see, because you see here for the month, of course, and for the quarter, that the Qs opened at 370. All right. So if we, for some reason, decided to go back to the upside, and this did a 3-2 up continuation, it would flip our time frame continuity back green. Right now, though, it is red. So if on Tuesday we continue to fall and we do that 3-2 up, 2 down, we'll have full time frame continuity on our side. So should definitely be an interesting week coming up. Looking at SPY is interesting because SPY did an inside week, and it really didn't do much of anything. It ranged between 438 and 444. So we know that 444, really 443, is a really strong resistance that if it does break it, then we can look for it to go to 450. That'll be our next weekly target. But 443 is a really strong resistance, and right now it's finding support at that 438. If it breaks that, we could see it come back down to this 432. Okay, so and then the same thing, it's full time frame continuity is red at the moment. We also have a beautiful shooting star, gravestone doji, however you want to call this, where they pushed that price super close to the low of the day. So really looking for this 2 up, 2 down, which could possibly trigger that 3-1-2 down. Now remember last time we were talking about this, we said, okay, when we went up, had this inside week, and then we barely hit the target, and we did an outside week. I'm not saying we're going to do that again, but keeping seasonality in mind, I would not be surprised if we did that again. Just because often an inside week can be followed by an outside week, just because they could just take that out on Monday and then turn it around Tuesday or Wednesday. So I think we'll really, really know by Tuesday or Wednesday, and we'll be able to see the directionality, because it's outside week again, or we could at 3-1-2 down. So people may say, oh, we're extended, we're overextended, we're oversold. No, we have plenty of room to go. 450 is the next target, and then the next swing high is 462. So, and again, earnings season is coming up. Some of your favorite stocks still have gaps to fill. So those are things we do want to keep in mind when we're looking at the indices. We're also well above our 200. We're still riding the EMAs. So we do have this similar M on the daily, kind of like Qs. So again, we could definitely turn, but the trend now has been that. And I honestly think before we really become bearish, we need to see full time frame continuity stay red, and we need to start seeing them taking out some of these lows in a true turn in direction. Otherwise, we are still in that buy the dip mode. All right. Quick glance at Apple. Also inside week. also still does have a little bit more room to go. I'm still saying that Apple can possibly hit 200. It got as high as 194.67 and it rejected. So if it does have more room, I still think that it could possibly go to 200. However, Apple has been on a tear. It has not had 2 consecutive red weeks since this year. It started the year red and then it boomed. And it's only had 1 red week before it keeps going. So this would also be another catalyst for that seasonal July move. It's had some correction. It could definitely take this out an outside week and then possibly move to the upside, which is what would possibly move SPY and Qs. Or we can 2-1-2 down and start coming down. There are still PMGs on the week. You got a gap here on the week, like a whole gap on the weekly. So, but again, like I said with the SPY, you really want to make sure you see some type of solid directional turn. Like this could be the start of an M, but you would need to see it double top and actually start turning down before you start targeting some of these gaps that Apple has on the downside. So we do have a shooter on the day, so this could also be a play on Monday. I do like how Apple sometimes moves on a Monday. So this 2 up, 2 down, catch you, what is that, like a dollar move on Apple. Again, it's been supported by these EMAs, has not broken the 20 in a while. So that would be a strong support for me, this 187. And if it breaks through there, then we may start going towards some of those gaps. But again, they have been buying the dip. And it's really easy for them to just TTO and reverse. So it could do something like that and then go. And look at the bottom, you guys. That's July 28th. So that would kind of make sense. We could definitely do this for the first week and then start moving in time for earnings. Earnings is for Apple is first week of August. So that maybe that's when it will turn red. We would have to see. But yeah, Microsoft. So Microsoft has actually been ranging. This is almost kind of like a bull flag to me. But we do still have room for it to go to the upside. It has not, oh, it did hit all-time highs. That's right. So it hit all-time highs and it's been sideways basically for 3 weeks. It's been in this range. So we know that 343 is a solid resistance and 330 is a solid support. If you see Microsoft start to turn, that's when you start saying, okay. So we will watch Apple, Microsoft, and the VIX to see if we see any weakness start to form in the indices. Okay. And then I do want to still point out some of the catalysts that can keep these indices going. You still have Meta still has a gap to fill here at 316. So if Meta goes to 316, that would definitely push the indices. Netflix is another one. Has a gap to fill here at 507. And their earnings are Tuesday the 18th. So if it, has a great earnings and they push it, that could also push the Qs. And that's really it. I did want to also point out something that I noticed is that put Tesla on your watch list because we gapped up and we have a shooter on the week. So at the bare minimum, I am targeting that gap fill. Hopefully it doesn't gap down, but it can just 2 up, 2 down. You can first target that gap fill, 264. Then maybe possibly 252. And then if it goes all the way to the target, 241.20. So it was a fresh TTO and come back in. So I do like Tesla, possibly. And yeah, that is it for that. So now let's go to the sectors. So looking how the sectors opened up on the week, we got XLY with this 3, 2 up, 2 down possible on the week. So if it does come down, 163.48 is what I'm looking for. This didn't quite take these folks out. So if anything, you know, it may come back and correct and then keep going to the upside. But time frame continuity currently is red. So if it does that 322 down, then it will keep that time frame continuity. Looking at XLC, it's not red, but we do have a shooter on the week after a fresh TTO. So it could possibly 2 up, 2 down on the week. Oh, also, XLC has time frame continuity that is currently green. So if anything, if it does have any correction, I would look for the dip to buy to trade back into full time frame continuity. Otherwise, looking at it, it could also flip time frame continuity back red if it goes under that 64.88. Yep, so if it does a 2 up, 2 down on the week, it will flip the time frame continuity red. XLK technology, we got that inside week that is red. So this looks just like the Qs. So you play that just like the Qs. Energy. So energy has been stuck in a range. If you notice that XLE has not been really able to break above this 82 area, and it has found support around 78, but it is ranging. So we are looking to see what we're going to do. It did have a fresh TTO, but it barely took out last week's high and came back in. It did end with a somewhat hammer, but not strong and red. So it's really no actionable signal there, and it's really just stuck in this range. So it's kind of looking to see it break out of this range before we want to do anything with that. Financials, your favorite bank, TTO and came back in. So again, no actionable signal here. It's basically just climbing up and fulfilling, I guess, this compound bar we have here. It would probably be this gap where it ironed that out, moved up, and now it came back in. So looking at it on the daily, and I could see that from the weekly that it had this resistance at this 200. So if your favorite bank can break above this 200 and hold, it may be able to move it to the upside. Otherwise, that may have been a fresh TTO and it may be coming back in. So this is almost a shooter, but it's green. You can see that it could not hold above that 200 and close below it. XLU, you have basically a shooter here, Gravestone Doji on the week. So looking for a possible Randy Jackson. You had your come down, your TTO, and came back in. So possibly 2 up, 2 down on the week for XLU. XLI, your industrials, you got an inside week. So not much going on there, basically. That thing looks like SPY. Have to see which direction it goes once we uncouple this week. XLV Healthcare had a nice 3-2 down. So there's no actionable signal here on the week, but it is currently red. XLP, you got your 2 up possible. This triggered the outside week and didn't finish. So looking for this to finish next week. 73.04 would be that target, but this has basically been stuck in a range, honestly. XLRE, your real estate. A lot of these, again, look the same. You see that they took out the previous week's high or more and came back in. So you just got to kind of have to see where these go from here. Excuse me. XLB did an outside week and ended like right in the middle. So if anything, this would be nice if it can give a nice inside week before it decides which direction it wants to go. But no one is in control right now. Just basically made a new broadening formation on the week. XOP, oil and gas. Another one that is, I believe this is, it's not a gravestone doji. I forget what the other one is called. The bullish one. whatever. Either it's not a hammer, but they ended pretty tight and closer to the high than the low. So there's no actionable signal here, but it could possibly continue to the upside. XRT looks exactly the same as XOP, except it's green, finding a hard resistance right here. Jets. So I've been talking about Jets, and I want to point out that Jets is finally above its 200 and holding. So I was mentioning that Jets, I think I started mentioning it back here. Oh, no, I think it may have been back. I don't remember, y'all. Anyway, I was saying that, you know, it's summertime. Travel should be a good industry. And so airlines have been doing pretty well. So look at your favorite airline and pay attention to what it's doing. It should be above its 200. So no actionable signal here, but it's definitely green. Full time frame continuity there. Lit finally closed above and closed pretty strong. So it does still have some movement or some room to the upside. It had this double inside week and it broke out. It's just moving really slow, but it could possibly get up to the 72. SOXL are semiconductors. So you can see here we are stuck in a range. So we were ranging, we broke out, and now we're ranging again. But we have somewhat found a solid support. We have a shooter here though, and these EMAs are turning. So it's really interesting for me to see whether or not this moves to the downside. Also because on the monthly, it could trigger the 2 up, 2 down. It would need to break this 2043 to do that. And you will also see that is another play I'm going to give y'all. Is AMD has this 3-2 up, possible 2 down. It would need to break that 108 area first. But if it does, then it could see some downside. I would probably at least look for 100 with AMD, but it could definitely come down to that target. This also could be somewhat of a bull flag, but it would really need to hold that 108. That's the real trigger there. So if you want to set your alert to alert you when it crosses under there and then start watching it, that may be a decent play. So SOXL also, yeah, you see how we are above our 200. We ironed out this gap area, so interesting to see what it does from here. These EMAs, this 8 crossed below its 20 and it stayed below it and it's turning. So that right there is telling me I'm a bit bearish on AMD unless it can cross back above it. And maybe if it did like a 2 up, 2 down and then cross back above and those EMAs cross back, because it can, you see it did it here, cross under and then cross back above. So it can certainly do that. We would just have to see. It could be following its last earnings patterns, because what it did the last earnings is it basically fell all the way until earnings and then it boomed. So that would kind of coincide if it wanted to fall all the way to earnings. Oh wait, I went past. If it wanted to fall all the way to earnings and then boom. And that would still be supported. It would have to go past 94 for it to break below its 200. That would still support it to boom even more. So keeping your eye on AMD. IYT is one I just recently added only because I've been talking about travel, so I thought that transportation would be a good one. And it did this 212 up, did a TTO and came back in. So I'm still watching it because it is well above its 200 and it's had its dip. So watching for any more dip to see if it will continue to the upside. You got your full time frame continuity. That's where money is flowing at right now. And China. Yen I don't think is as good as BABA is what I wanted to look at. Baba did an outside week. Baba is still in this downtrend though. So really interesting to see if Baba can finally find some legs and possibly move out of this downtrend. But we know that 80 is a really strong support for it. It's washed below it a couple of times, but it's really holding strong with that 80. So interesting to see if Baba can maybe turn around this quarter, possibly do a 2 up on the quarter, or if it's going to stay inside and move up, like whatever it wants to do. But keeping our eye on Baba. All right, so let us go to a few plays. We got the 50% on the month. Triggers. TXN is one that has triggered already. It is basically sitting right at the trigger. So remember this, if this could possibly continue, and if it does, then 167.20 is our target. However, this also could be a point where they buy from. And notice also this range area. So you want to see and make sure it stays below there to see more continuation. Otherwise, it could definitely be bought up at that moment. Then also ones that have not triggered yet but are close are PG. Keep that on your watch list. Walmart. And Win did trigger, but it came back in. So this is one that could have been bought back up there, because it all, you can see it came down to about 97 and then they bought it back up. So if it falls back below that 101.10, I would look for it to possibly continue to that downside. You see though here that it's supported there. So if it does a 3-2, that would definitely give me confidence that it's going to continue to do that outside month. And then, I believe, yes, we had some 2-week setups. And I also did a video on Starbucks. Hopefully you guys had a chance to watch that. If not, I will put it in this video. But the video wasn't actually specifically on Starbucks. It was basically on how to swing Starbucks. Oh, I can take my alert off now. Oh, well, it's on my line. So we were looking at Starbucks because Starbucks did an outside quarter, and we wanted to see if the bears continued it. And so 97 was our strong support that we were looking for it to break. It has broken under, so now we're looking to see if it is going to hold. So Starbucks did this outside week, just like how it did the outside quarter. If it does this 3-2 down, 95 is going to be the next strong support. But if we break that, then we can start looking for that nice swing there that I mentioned in the video. All right. Net is another one that has or is about to trigger the month. We already mentioned AMD, but Net could possibly do this 3-2 up, 2 down. So 61.80 is going to be your trigger to the downside if it does move. And if you look at it on the weekly, it's making lower highs and it's slowly bleeding. So that 62 is a really strong support, and if it breaks that, then we can start. The next target will be 54 on the week. So this may need some time, maybe definitely be a swing. But once it breaks out of this range, it can definitely die. We talked about PG and Walmart as the outside months. KHC has a nice shooter on the week. I'm going to take this for a quick. This is a cheapie that you can get for a quick 75%, 50 cent. But you have KHC with the nice shooter. You got CLX with the 3-2 up shooter. We have been watching Dollar Tree for a while, right? And we were looking at Dollar Tree because it was in this range. And we wanted to see which way it was going to break out. And it broke out of there quickly, TTO'd them, and came right back in. Was watching Dollar Tree because it has this gap to the upside that we were looking for, but just wanted to see what kind of what it was going to do here. basically rejected this 200. It tried, it rejected it again, and now it's sitting in between these two EMAs. But breaking down, we got some room to the downside, y'all. 137.57, and we have a 2 up red, I mean almost shooter gravestone Joji here. So interesting to see if it breaks out of there. If it can break this 143.25, then we can get to this 142.73. That 142.73, if it breaks that, good night. Now granted, it may not outside month, that may be a lot for it to do, but it definitely could. But I like this a lot if it can actually break through. We also mentioned Tesla, which came out of XLY. So if Tesla definitely moves, then XLY should die as well. Google has been slowly melting. Now Google is interesting because Google has a possible outside year. However, it has been looking bearish for the last few weeks. It also has been wicking. So there really is, I would say, no one truly in control. But I think if we uncouple this week and move to the downside, then it'll give the bears some control for the short term. This is if seasonality just doesn't go the way we think it will. So right now it is bearish, and especially if it breaks this 117, it will 2 up 2 down on the month, and it may come back in. So you can roll those either way. A couple of other ones that Kiki mentioned are Target. We have been watching Target to kind of on the day break this area, decide if it was going to break up or break down. Looks like it's breaking down, so Target may continue to break to the downside. I believe it's the 2-week trigger. Yes, the 2-1 2 down on the 2-week. So it may get down another $5, 125. CRM. Now CRM is kind of flagging here. It looks like a bull flag, kind of like how Dollar Tree was looking. But you can kind of see. Let's do it. Let's do it here. Like this. So it's tight. Okay, but this could be a bear flag or a bull flag. It could kind of go either way. Remove that. If you look at it on the monthly, though, it was an inside month. It's still an inside month. So still watching to see which side is going to break, because it's been basically ranging for a few weeks now. And once it breaks out of this range, it may be a decent play. Snow, also, not on the quarter, it's the month. No, it wasn't the month either. It was the 2-week. Yeah, it's the 2-week. Snow is also, it barely triggered that 2-week and barely hit the target, but thinking that it will continue to the downside, it just really needs to break 167, and if it does, good night. It could definitely come down to this 150. So it's looking like it's rounding down. This is not an actionable signal, but you do have one on the daily. So this 2 up 2 down, and we can definitely come and see some downside. My first strong support would be that 163.83. So alrighty, you guys, that is all I have for y'all today. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. Stay safe and happy trading.